Hello? Is this on?
Alright, hi everyone. So if you're anything like me and you recently got into photography, you may be looking for a lens that can elevate you beyond the kit lens that comes with your camera. So for me, I was looking for something that had a bit more range than the kit lens and maybe something that would be able to perform a bit better in low light and have that nice background blur that you see in everyone else's videos that just looks so nice. So I decided on the Tamron 17 to 70mm f2.8 lens. So I'll start by going over the physical features of the lens. The lens features a manual zoom ring as well as a manual focus ring. One thing to note is the manual zoom and focus rings are swapped in orientation from where they would be on a Sony lens. Not a big deal to me, but I know for some people that are more into photography and are used to things, it's gonna kind of throw them off. Now this lens features a 17 to 70mm range. Since this lens is built for APS-C cameras, that is the equivalent of a 25.5 to 105mm range on a full frame camera. Now that's just insane. You can basically go from a wide angle lens all the way to a pretty zoomed in lens at that 105mm end. So because of that, this is kind of a catch-all lens. It kind of can do everything, and that's one of the main reasons that I bought it personally. This lens features a constant f2.8 aperture. What that means is across all of the different zoom levels, it has that same 2.8 aperture. Have you ever had your video settings dialed and it looks perfect, and then you zoom in on someone and everything just gets exploded and it gets too dark and it looks bad? Well, that's because your lens isn't constant aperture. So that aperture is getting smaller as you zoom in and it's letting less light in. With this lens, across the full range of zoom, it has the same exact aperture. So you can leave your video settings as is and every clip will look the exact same. Now this is all the difference for me coming from the kit lens. Just having that constant aperture, I can zoom in and get that same level of background blur on photos that I wouldn't have been able to do with my kit lens because the aperture changes. Another couple features of the lens, it does have built-in image stabilization, which I will touch on later in the video. It also has a moisture-resistant construction. Now I wouldn't use this as okay, I can go swimming with this lens. I would even be a little skeptical to bring it out in a heavy rain. I would try to cover it up, but it does feature that resistance, so you should be okay if you bring it out in the rain. It also features a fluorine coating on the outer lens. This should help protect against dust, dirt, and smearing, which is another kind of cool feature. I'd recommend just throwing on a UV filter on the lens. They're cheap. The filter size is 67mm, so if you want a UV filter, just get a 67mm filter, screw it onto the top. It'll protect your outer lens, and it's a lot cheaper to replace than a full lens. Now on to photo performance. I went to Milwaukee with my buddy and we took some pictures at nighttime. I'll be flashing those across the screen so you can see what you think. I think this lens did a great job. I was able to take some what I think are super cool pictures with minimal editing, and I was super happy with this lens. That f2.8 aperture was super nice during that nighttime photo shoot. I just kept it at that throughout the whole photo shoot just to let the most amount of light in and keep my ISO low. Super happy with how this lens performed, miles better than the kit lens. There's better low light performance, more background blur and bokeh effect. I'm just super happy with how these pictures turned out. Another thing I wanted to note when taking pictures is this lens has a super small minimum focal distance. So here you can see this is how close I was to this object when I took this picture, and here's what the picture turned out like. It can focus on the object being that close. It's kind of insane to me. Now as for video performance, so I like to have the viewer be the judge of what they think of the video since they're going to be the one purchasing the lens. Now, in my opinion, this lens is amazing for video. You can use it for vlogging, and you could use it to even take like sports videos. Like I could take this out disc golfing with me, one of my hobbies, and be able to zoom in on the disc as it flies because of that huge range. But I've been shooting this whole video where you've seen this in studio. I've been shooting that with this lens, and also every video that's been within this review has been shot on the Tamron lens except for the shots themselves of the Tamron lens. I didn't quite have enough money to buy two lenses. But yeah, I'm super happy with the video performance. Another note, I shoot these videos in HLG. I don't use S-Log because I have the Sony ZV-E10, which shoots in 8-bit color, And in order to use S-Log, you should probably have 10-bit color just to be able to extract out all that color information.
So as for vlogging performance, the lens does a pretty good job. One thing to note is the lens is pretty big and it's kind of long. So I'm grabbing it by like the very end of the lens. I'm not even touching the camera right now. I'll throw a clip on screen so you can see what I'm saying. But I would I would not choose this lens if your sole purpose is for vlogging. I'd look for a different lens, but this lens will do the job and I think it does pretty good. Just so you know, I'm using an f4 aperture because it's insanely sunny right now. If I was getting a lens solely for vlogging, I'd choose something else. Maybe the Tamron 11 to 20 millimeter is something I've been looking at. That's also a constant f2.8 aperture, and it would kind of slot in perfectly with this Tamron I have for like a dual lens setup that can do everything. That might be my next lens pickup.
So this camera does not have any, just kidding, it does. So this camera features built-in stabilization. So what I'd like to do for you guys, I'll have a clip with no stabilizations. I'll have a clip with the lens stabilization so you guys can see what that looks like. And I'll also have a clip of stabilization using Catalyst Browse, which is Sony software that you can stabilize footage using the gimbal data your camera takes when you're recording, and you can stabilize it after the fact with a small amount of crop. Also, never use the super stable in Sony, it just crops in way too much. Alright, so here's me vlogging at arm's length at the 17mm end with absolutely no stabilization on. So you can kind of see how this looks. I'm just walking up and down a hallway and keeping the camera pretty stable, but obviously there's going to be some bumps because I'm walking and there's no autofocus. Alright, here is me vlogging with steady shot on. So this is with the in-lens stabilization. This is not software stabilized. This is using the stabilization that's built into the lens. So here's a clip where I'm going to use Catalyst Browse after the fact to stabilize the clip that I'm taking right now. And you can kind of see what you like the best out of the three and what looks the most stable and the best for vlogging. So on to the important thing, price. This lens brand new costs $699. But I picked it up on Facebook Marketplace for $540. And what I would recommend you to do if you're interested in this lens is look at your local marketplaces. A lot of people sell their APS-C lenses when they move on to full frame, and you can get basically a brand new lens for $100, $200 cheaper than if you were to buy it brand new. For me, this Tamron is perfect. If I were to break this lens tomorrow, I would immediately buy it again, just because it's not too expensive and it can do absolutely everything, and it's good at absolutely everything. I absolutely adore this lens. It's changed the hobby for me and I couldn't recommend it more. I think this lens is the best APS-C lens that you can buy, especially if it's your first lens you're getting, because it can do everything. It might not be the best at everything, but it can do everything. So if you want that Sigma 30mm f1.4, but you also want to be able to vlog, you can get this lens for now and be able to do everything. And then down the line, if you want to take those more crispy photographs, you can grab that Sigma 30mm f1.4. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, leave a comment. Give me any feedback for things I could have done better or things you like to see, and I really appreciate it. Have a lovely day. Bye now.